Okay, guys. So we are here with Kaille Grey. She is the wife of Mike Grey, who is an assistant wrestling coach at Cornell. And we're going to ask her a few questions. Okay, Kaille. So we know that you and Mike met when y'all were 15 years old. Can you
Yes.
tell me what your first official date was like?
Yes. So it's actually funny. The place we went to is a place that I was somewhat familiar with. One of my close girlfriends in high school lived right down the street from it. And it's just this like old, dingy looking building. And I can remember driving past it all the time saying, I will never go in that place and eat that food ever. It skeeved me out so bad. So he I met him at his parents' house because he was living in Ithaca at the time, and he said, "Okay, well, we're gonna go to Spain Rincon." I was like, "Oh, this is not this is not starting well," you know. And it ended up being great. It's actually one of our favorite spots. I totally misjudged it. It's got great food and the best sangria around in New Jersey. So, but yeah, so we went there, and we spent a little while there, and then just kind of went back to his house and spent some time with his family. And it was a little bit different because I had already known his family for so long. So not many people go on a first date and then go back and sit around your dinner table with your parents. But yeah,
But
no
that's a
pressure.
cool story, right? But that's a cool
Yeah.
story.
Yeah, it was fun. So
I love it. And I like that that is now one of y'all's favorite spots to
yeah,
go to.
yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so can you tell me a little bit about the transition for Mike from an athlete to a coach and what differences, if any, that you saw in him?
So we actually, like I told you, we weren't together when he graduated from college. We actually got together the year after that. But I, it was actually, I think a lot of people struggle, like a lot of Division I athletes, wrestlers that I see experience, they struggle with that, right? It's kind of like an identity crisis of not competing anymore and not being part of that world in that way. But Mike really, he didn't. I think he knew for a long time, especially in college, it solidified it that he wanted to be a coach and he wanted to impact the kids in that way. So it was a no-brainer. I mean, a lot of people decide, maybe they'll compete for a year and say, okay, I'm not cut out for it. I'm not good enough. It's not for me. I'll just move on from it. But Mike knew right away, and he didn't even want to compete. He just said, my role in this sport has moved from one thing to the other, and I'm going to accept that. And I'm going to, he didn't achieve everything he wanted to achieve on a collegiate level, unfortunately. But I think he said that I want to impact these kids the best way that I can. And I want to help them achieve everything they want to achieve and everything that I wasn't able to achieve. Right. So, it was a pretty easy transition. I think they convinced him his first year out. So the first summer he graduated right in May. And then that summer he was taking, I'm probably leaving out a few people, but Frankie Pirelli, Duke Pickett, one of the guys that was on the team, to wrestle in the Canada Cup. And he had just been in one of his buddies' weddings like a week before. And they, on the way to Canada, convinced him to wrestle. So he had to cut like 20 pounds. And
Oh my
he's like, I
gosh.
don't even know why I did it. And that really helped solidify the I'm done competing kind of thing, So I think he took third. He had Franklin Gomez in his bracket, which I think he battled with Franklin Gomez quite a bit in college and even in high school. So yeah, that was the end of that for him. But it was a really easy transition for him. I think he really had no growing pains in terms of missing that competition aspect and being the actual athlete.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like that you say there weren't any growing pains for him. It was almost kind of like he knew that this is
Yeah.
what he was supposed to do. That's beautiful. So I know you guys weren't together when he was competing, but he recently got a promotion,
Yeah.
correct, as a coach?
Yes.
Okay, so did you have any adjustments for yourself that you had to make with that transition from getting a promotion within coaching for him?
So I think that more of the adjustments came the year before. So Damian Hahn, who is very close. We are very close with he and his family. His wife, Terry, is like my best friend. And their kids were very close with them. They left. He took the head coaching job at South Dakota the year before. So he was the associate head coach at the time, and he left. And then Mike did 1 year as an assistant coach, and then this year they promoted him to associate head coach. So a lot of those adjustments came when Damian left, because when he left, all those responsibilities were then transitioned to Mike. And he took it in stride. And that's Mike. He's like a total workhorse. And so it was really not that much of an adjustment for him, maybe a little bit more for me, because there were, more time constraints for him. The more he's doing, the less time he has to do other things. But it almost worked out perfectly, because we are fortunate enough that I did not have to go back to work after I had Declan. And we had juggled with the idea of me going back and him being in daycare. And, once Damian left, and I just, I said, with all the traveling that you already do and all the traveling that you'll be doing even more, I think that, it's probably just easiest for my sanity, for me to just stay home with him. So it came at a perfect time, because I now have more time on my hands to handle everything else that I have to, because he can't. So it worked out. I mean, the timing has been pretty perfect for us so far. So it's good.
That's awesome. I like that you guys can juggle that with each other, and oh, you need to give more at work. That's fine, babe. I've got it over here. That's a great teamwork.
It's a team effort. That's for sure.
I love it. I love it. So Cornell is an Ivy League college. How tough are those demands for the student athletes or your wrestlers that you can see as a coach's wife?
Yeah, it's a lot. And it's very hard, because Cornell is a wonderful place, and all the faculty and staff are very understanding of the demands of an Ivy League student's life in general, and then being a Division I athlete at an Ivy League institution. They understand it. Sometimes they don't love it, right? Because Cornell's not, in our world, Cornell is known for wrestling, and in the hockey world, they're known for their hockey, right? They have a great hockey team, men's hockey and women's hockey too. But I think that it's an academic institution, and the academia here is top notch, and they want the kids to spend as much time as they can focusing on that. So I think, I struggle a little bit in terms of how I plan to raise my own child with the whole idea of specialization in a sport. But I will say that in this world, I think that the specialization helps, because these kids coming in have already figured out that they really need to focus on time management. And that is huge. I think, a lot of people that are here may not necessarily have been destined for Cornell if it weren't for wrestling. We wouldn't be destined for Cornell if it weren't for wrestling. So they really have to be on top of everything to manage everything. But I think it's all about balance. And I think that these kids, now that they specialize, they know, I'm waking up, I'm probably going to work out, in high school, I'll work out and lift before I go to school. I go to school, then I have my high school practice, then I have to get my homework done, then I've got to go to whatever club practice I have next. And then you get home and it's 9 o'clock and you wake up and you do it all over again. I mean, that transition straight through to college. So they are getting a little leg up in that department, maybe more so than, when we were at that age, or when our husbands were at that age going through, it was a little bit less like that, I think. So I think that the time management is just really important, and then the support of the people around them. And anyone can do it if you just put your mind to it, right? You just study, and it's all about balance. You can have it all. You can still have a social life. You can be successful in athletics. You can be successful academically, but you just have to balance that and prioritize things. And sometimes you miss out on things, it's the reality of the situation. But I think that with the big support system that they have here, and their professors and their peers, right? They're in group projects. I just was talking to Noah Boffman. He's our 41 pounder, and he had a group project in one of his classes, and they did a presentation, and everyone in class had a group of 3 or 4 people. They had to do a presentation, and the top 5 people got to go on and present it to actual business people, so that they could be reviewed on it and possibly turn their business proposition and idea into a legitimate thing. And Noah had to leave for Vegas, so he couldn't be there for the second part of it. So it's like, okay, well, you did all this, and now the part where you actually get rewarded for it, you can't be there because you've got to get on a plane and go to Vegas in the middle of the week on a Wednesday, you know? So, but they figured it out, and you know, and he made it work, and his peers supported him, and they took his part for him, and, you know, they did a good job. So, you know, it's just all about the balance, I think, really.
I like that you use the word balance, and I also like that you use the word support. So leading into that, you say that support is a huge part of them being able to handle the high academic standard as well as still being a Division I athlete. Can you tell me a little bit about your role in being supportive with the wrestlers?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So to know me is to know that I like love to I love to be a part of everything. I want to roll. I want to have a purpose. And when when Mike and I got together, I had just graduated from college. I went to school at Appalachian State University, like your husband. And I moved back to New Jersey, which is where Mike and I are both from. And I was working at a prosecutor's office in Morris County, New Jersey, which is like North Jersey. And I basically ended up having to choose, like, do I want to pursue my career or do I want to pursue this life with this man that I love? And I chose Mike, obviously. But my job was it was that fighting the good fight. It was that feel good. You know, I really got genuine happipiness out of what I was doing every day. And I knew that if I didn't really force myself into the situation up here, that I would be lacking a huge part of what makes me happy. So it wasn't as hard. It wasn't very hard, but it was a little bit harder because I did initially come up here and was working. So I didn't have as much time, but I travel as much as I can with the team. And, you know, I'm everywhere. I try and be everywhere for them and just be Johnny on the spot if I have to be. And in so many different ways, and whatever they need, really, you know, their moms and their dads, I sit across from the table at their recruiting dinners. And you know, their moms are, oh, look out for my boy, and I take that responsibility so seriously because I would want someone to do that for my son, you know, and I don't want someone just to say it and not do it. And they don't have a family here. This is your family when you're here. You're here for five years, God willing, and you can't go home that much, especially if you're far away. So, you know, it is what it is. And I'm going to be there for them in any way that I can. So whether that be help them pick out a gift for their girlfriend on their girlfriend's birthday, or advice, or where to take their girlfriend to dinner, or, you know, to give them that swift kick in the butt, you know, for lack of a better term. It's like, listen, you're not doing what you need to be doing. You know, if they come to me, why is this not working? Or, you know, what's going on? Well, because you're not doing what you need to do. And I don't have any problem being honest with them. And I think that they kind of appreciate that and they expect that from me. What you see is what you get. And they all know, don't come to me if you don't want the truth, you know, because I have no problem giving it. I have no problem. And, you know, and in other ways too, you know, if they just need to come over and vent, or, you know, sit down at our dinner table and have a conversation. I mean, this year we had practice on Thanksgiving because we wrestled Ohio State on Sunday. So my dad came up, thank goodness, and helped me cook. We had about 20 people at our house, all the kids all jam packed in, and we made a big Thanksgiving dinner and, you know, set them all up. So I think in that way, it makes me so happy because I know that they all know that they can come to me for whatever it is that they need. And that's a very clearly, it's very clear. I make that very clear right from the beginning, that it is whatever they need, whatever relationship they want to have with Mike and myself, that it's an open door. You know what I'm saying? So we give them what they ask from us, really is the best way I can describe it. So with everyone, it's different. Every kid it's different. Some kids I don't have that close of a relationship with, and some of them I have a very close relationship and continue to. And sometimes I think I have an even closer relationship with some of them than Mike even does. You know what I mean? Because it's just, you just connect with certain people. So yeah, it's great. I love it. It makes me so happy. So I feel great to be able to be a part of something bigger.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, that gives me chills. Seriously, that's it, because you never know, like you said, you never know what the college kids might need. And the fact that you can kind of wear a bunch of different hats and be whatever it is that they need from you, I think that's very special. Very, very special.
Well, thank you.
So you're welcome. So I know that you guys have a young son, Declan. How has the transition been for you, juggling being a coach's wife and now a mom?
Yeah, it is a lot. It's a lot. And I'm so grateful that he is surrounded by these kids, because I think he thinks he's like a teenager. He just thinks he's one of them when he sees other little kids. Like I'm very close with Megan Dake and Kyle Dake's wife, and their daughter Ella Jo is 6 months younger than Declan, and he loves her, but he looks at her like she's like, what is this, right? Because he's just around adults all the time. It's just so wonderful, though, that these are the kids that are his role models. These are the kids that he'll look up to. I mean, I talk about it all the time that, my parents didn't really, I played sports growing up, but it wasn't stressed, right? Like the Ivy League education, it wasn't stressed to me because I wasn't surrounded by people, right? So the standard for Declan will be in his mind, I mean, if he chooses to be a Division I athlete at an Ivy League institution, I mean, that's setting the bar high, but he knows that it's achievable because he's around people that do it, and people that he'll be able to see are just like him. And if he just follows in the footsteps that they do, it's really nice. The travel is hard. It's hard to go with, and it's hard when he goes without me, when Mike goes without me, because then you're on like 24/7. And just when he came back home from Vegas this past Sunday, I was like, Mike, I can't change a diaper for a solid day. I've changed so many diapers nonstop. I was in charge of bath time, every diaper, every meal. I just need a second, so that's hard, but I know what I signed up for, and it's worth it to me, because he'll have such a great upbringing around these kids that are just so impressive, So
That's awesome. So you said that if he decides to be a Division I athlete, so he's going to be growing up around wrestlers. So I'm pretty sure you guys are going to try and introduce him to wrestling, when he's a little bit older. How do you think you guys will handle introducing him to wrestling in his own way?
Yeah, I actually joke all the time, because when I first moved up here, and when Mike and I first started dating, his brother, Mark, his younger brother Mark, was on the team, and it was the most torturous 5 years of my life. And I'm like, this isn't even my kid. Like, what am I going to do when it's my own kid? So I've been saying since Declan's born, I'm like, yeah, maybe we'll get him into like golf or, something. I don't know. I love wrestling.
Something with a little less risk injury.
I'm going to love it a lot less when it's my own kid. I feel like I'm going to be, Yanni jokes with me all the time that I'm just going to be the crazy kid, or the crazy mom. My kid's going to be so embarrassed by me. I'm like, oh geez, like I'm in big trouble. But I think he's already pretty introduced to it. I mean, he walks around, Yanni's got him walking around in his stance already. I mean, he's 16 months old and he knows what a wrestling stance is. So as much as I just want him to love it. I just, I don't want to, I've seen so many kids, right? I'm sure you have too, that they come in, they've got all these high hopes and they just burn out. It's just a lot. And, and it's that demanding nature of our sport that starts at such a young age. And it's hard because it's that keeping up with the Joneses feeling, right? Like,
oh yeah,
if I don't do this, these kids are going to be better than me. And maybe my son and your future kids will have the leg up, that they'll be exposed to like great training and great technique from the beginning, because they'll be running around a Division I program's wrestling room with Olympians and, national champions. And, so they have that advantage, but I don't want him to burn out or hate it, and or feel like he has to do it because Mike's a coach. But I have a feeling that it's in his future in some way. My mom's always like, oh, his ears. I'm like, yeah, I don't have much hope for those ears. They're cute now. I'll take some pictures, but I just don't have much hope for them in the future. So.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
I love that Yanni and him, because I've seen pictures of them on social media, that they are like best friends.
Yeah,
that is so cute.
They love each other. It's funny. I try and just let them do their thing, and he just loves him. I mean, he's been saying, he calls him, actually Luca Han was the one, Damien's youngest son, calls Yanni Nani. And so that was a little bit easier, the N than the Y. So Declan's been calling him Nani for a while now. He knows. We have a magnet of him on the refrigerator. I take tons of pictures and then print them all out in Shutterfly in little magnets so that he can see all of his friends and family, and we practice everyone's names, and he walks right up and sticks his finger right to Yanni. Sometimes he pulls it off and puts it on the front of the refrigerator so he can just see it throughout the day. Yeah, they are, it's funny. It's cute. It's very special. And it makes me happy because I love Yanni. He's like a part of our family. So, yeah, it's special to see.
That's beautiful. I love it. I am looking forward to seeing their bond continue to grow. So, all right. So what is something about Mike that most people don't know?
Okay. So when you ask me that question, I think of the most random things. It's, I feel like some women would probably answer this most profound thing that would give this insightful, look into his life. And I can't think of anything like that. The first thing that comes, I have two things that pop into my mind. And the first one is that he knows an ungodly amount of college mascots. I mean, it's the most bizarre thing. I'm like, it's not like something you study. Like, how do you know all of these things, right? It's just, I mean, it's not even just Division I. It's all across all divisions. Like, who just knows that? How do you? I don't know. Maybe, I guess he just watched a lot of ESPN growing up, but he can tell you on demand almost any college mascot in the country. It's unbelievable. And the other thing is that he loves movies. We love to go see movies. I actually have not been to see a movie since Declan was born. But that was our thing. But he really loves movies. And I can remember when we were friends in high school and we would all be hanging out, and all of a sudden I just had no idea what anyone was talking about. We'd be in a normal conversation and all of a sudden they'd just be off on this tangent. I'm like, what the heck? And they were quoting movies. He knows so many movie quotes that and like Yanni's gotten into it now, but him and one of his best friends, Frankie Pirelli, and his younger brother, Mark, and his older brother, Mike's older brother, John, and younger brother, Mark, they just constantly are quoting movies together. So I've now resigned to the fact that whenever I have no idea what the heck is going on in the conversation, that they're probably just quoting movies, because it's always at the perfect time. Like, his recall is unbelievable. He just throws out a movie quote and it just makes perfect sense into this normal conversation. It's unbelievable. But yeah, movie quotes and college mascots. Those are two of Mike's wheelhouse items for sure. But
it sounds like he would be a great person to have on a trivia team.
Yes, for sure. I think he would absolutely be.
Yeah. That's awesome. So if you had to describe Mike in just one short sentence, what would you say?
I'm biased because he's my husband, but he is one of them, in my world, the hardest working, most loyal, genuine person I've ever met in my life. I mean, no job, this is not a short sentence, so I apologize, but
no, you're fine.
He is, no job is too big or small, or no person is too, important or unimportant. He inspires me every day. He's just one of the most amazing people I've ever met. I mean, and so I married him, so that, lucky me, but it's just impressive. I strive to be like him in a lot of ways, because he's just he's just really a wonderful person to be around. And I think that a lot of the people that surround themselves with him would agree with me. He garners a lot of respect from his athletes, and he has this quality about him that it can't be taught, it can't be learned. And I feel like, to be a great coach, it's something that you have to have. And he has this ability to make these kids want to do well for him. He's right there. He lets them, convinces them, and is truly, and it's true. He's right in the trenches with them. And it is so obvious when you see their relationships and when you see him coaching them. And it's just so impressive. He's just so impressive to me, I think, really. So, but again, he's my husband, so that's probably why. I'm sure you would say the same thing about yours.
Of course, but it's still beautiful. It's still, because wrestlers are a breed of their own, man.
Right.
And that passion that they have, it's
Yeah.
beautiful to witness. And Mike sounds like a guy I would love to sit down and play some trivia with.
Oh, yeah.
And hopefully win.
Of course. Maybe
He's
definitely
definitely
this year.
Right? We definitely should.
Yeah.
We definitely should. Well, thank you so much. And we appreciate having you on here. And I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you so much, you too. And this is so awesome. But thank you for shedding light on this part of our world that not many people get to see very often.